In late 2024, I traveled to 3 WWE events in 1 week, and by the end I was still thrilled but looking like the Stone Cold meme. It was absolutely exhausting, the travel was grueling, but it was also a blast, and I learned a lot from each event. I was able to experience all 3 types of shows that WWE provides: a house show, a TV taping, and a premium live event. The first stop was a Sunday Super Show in Alabama, followed by a taping of SmackDown on Friday and the Blood PLE the very next day in Atlanta. Each show was unique, had its own feel to it, with varying levels of production quality, but a through line was exhilaration. The wrestling was peak, and by the time CM Punk's music hit at the start of Bad Blood, I was so hyped I would have tried Ultimate Warrior's workout routine.
You put the bar on the back and you squat fucking down, feet flat, like you're shitting over a hole.
Like a lot of people, this new era of wrestling has sucked me back into something I loved as a kid but forgot about as an adult. Until now. From Raw tapings in Nashville and Boston to PLEs in Atlanta and the Royal Rumble in Tampa, I've more than jumped back into wrestling, I've run through a brick wall for it. And I've been privileged enough to live in a centralized area where WWE caters to a core set of fans, frequenting arenas within a reasonable travel radius. Reasonable until you try for 3 in a week. But we've all driven in a car, you know what that's like, we'll leave that to the wayside. What are the differences between the shows? What's a house show like compared to a regular TV recording? And what makes going to a PLE so special? Best to start at the beginning. The house show in Huntsville, Alabama. Let's go.
Man. Wow, man, freaked out!
WWE takes to calling their house shows different names depending on the time of year. Around wintertime, it's called the WWE Holiday Tour, and here it was called a Super Show. And yes, indeed, they're still doing house shows even though they're winding down how many they do each year. Unfortunately, I think this might be the last house show in Huntsville for some time because they seem to only be hitting bigger markets where they'll be guaranteed to cut a profit. For example, I saw the Holiday Tour house show in my home state in Bangor, Maine a year ago, and they won't be visiting there again either. It's a sad time because house shows are meant to bring live WWE events to audiences who normally wouldn't be able to travel or afford seeing a television taping or PLE. Not only do house shows provide WWE wrestling for fans who wouldn't otherwise be able to see it live, it can go batshit crazy and go right off the rails in the best possible ways. It's where wrestlers can try new things, go off script, and interact with the audience far more than they typically be able to when wrapped in the confines of a television production. We all saw the viral video where CM Punk came running out in a towel and shower cap to help Damien Priest. That was a house show. Nothing that insane happened in Huntsville, but there were plenty of great moments, especially how interactive the superstars were with the crowd. Most took the Cody Rhodes route of hanging out as long as they could after their match, signing autographs, taking pictures, and high-fiving fans until security forced them to leave. It's how I got this close to mommy herself. Now, let's chronicle the show from start to finish. When I first arrived, I noticed the arena was much smaller than something you see on television. Like a TV production though, they cut off a huge portion of the arena to make way for the wrestler entrance area, because it would be insanely difficult to fill an entire arena as often as they do shows, no matter how popular WWE is at any given time. Security was a breeze, almost too lax, but maybe that's just me being unaware how advanced the technology's gotten at this point. Step through the machine, scan my phone, and away we go. I sat near the display area so I could get a great view of the wrestler entrances, and the next thing I noticed was how dressed down the setup was. It makes sense, it's a house show. Unlike TV where they have full-on advertisements lining the wrestler's entrance ramp and walkway with big LED lights and displays, they had simple 3-foot gates separating the crowd from the entranceway. The lit-up entrance wall was also significantly smaller, which is fitting and normal for a house show. Along with the dressed-down ramp, barricade, and LED display at the entrance, the ring too was minimalist, featuring thinner, simpler ring posts rather than the silver and LED lit ones you see on TV. The show began on time with a countdown by the ring announcer and started hot immediately with Jey Uso's entrance, getting the crowd absolutely hyped out of their minds. This was during his short stint as Intercontinental Champ, so his opponent was, naturally at the time, Braun Breaker. This is a great example of how they get to do what they want within reason. They had a yeet and bark competition with the crowd that absolutely wouldn't fly on TV for how long it ran, but everyone was eating it up nonetheless. Eventually, Jey won, showcasing another thing about house shows, their ability to stay within storylines while never making any major alterations to them. Big changes to storylines happen during episodes of Raw or SmackDown, with the ultimate ending usually happening at a PLE. House shows are fucking awesome because they stay within kayfabe and their respective stories, while adding layers to rivalries you really don't get to see literally anywhere else. After that match, I got in trouble with a security guard. The guy had me sweating like Hulk Hogan on the first Raw on Netflix and told me I had to put my camera camera away, which goes against what you see on every single taping of anything WWE. The company loves when fans post to social media because it just spreads the word more about WWE itself. The more content out there, especially from fans, the better. But the guy talked with head of security who detailed the misunderstanding, and instead of giving him the Roman Reigns laugh, we became friends, ended things on a fist bump, and I was back to recording. From here on out, wrestlers who weren't advertised began appearing. First up was the Wyatt Six, which the crowd ate up. Uncle Howdy sat in his rocking chair, and the audience waited in anticipation, wondering if he was going to participate in the match. And indeed, he certainly did. There eventually was an intermission, and unfortunately for those in attendance, LA Knight wasn't there despite being advertised as such. And yeah, he was one of the people I was excited to see. But greatness replaced him when Rhea Ripley made a surprise entrance. She shockingly wasn't advertised for this show, and she participated in an intergender tag team match with Damien Priest against Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux. I surmised she was most likely at the house show because she had been out of commission for a while, and she had a championship match with Liv Morgan in the preceding 5 days. It was clearly her opportunity to get some reps in and shake the rust off, but she certainly didn't seem rusty. Her and Priest did dual finishers, and she put Scarlett in her patented sexualized pin, and the crowd went wild. Her and Damien stuck around for as long as they could, signing autographs, taking selfies with the crowd, and I got up close and managed to fist bump Damien. A pretty cool experience, not gonna lie. Even Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill made an appearance while they were still tag team champs. I have my opinions on Jade, as I don't really think she can carry a match by herself, and she's struggled quite a bit during this one here. I personally think she was written off TV not for a break, but for more training time. The headlining match was, of course, the man himself, Cody Rhodes, versus AJ Styles, who hadn't been seen on television for a long time. So it was really surprising to see him here. He'd go on to have his return at SmackDown that very week, so like Rhea, it's another situation where a wrestler utilizes a house show to get reps in and shake off any rust they might have. The match wasn't like a PLE or even a SmackDown one though. It dragged on, with the number of holds and submissions taking up at least half the match. We're talking about two of the best in the business here, and I've seen better from both of them. But they were putting the house show aspect of it all to task. And while all of this is going on as a closed show, WWE still has cameramen recording at all times. They make sure to document absolutely everything. I can't even fathom the library the WWE Vault has at this point. That wraps the details of the house show, but what is it like going to an actual taping of SmackDown? 5 days after the Super Show, I entered Bridgestone Arena in Nashville for the go-home episode of SmackDown before the Bad Blood PLE. And you can tell immediately this ain't no house show. With the entryway taking up the back end of the arena, any show like this is usually 3/4 full, which is still an astonishing number considering we're talking about a double weekly taping of professional wrestling. WWE really is that popular right now. After getting through security, again, like a breeze, alarmingly so once more, I entered the inside arena and off the bat, the presentation was nothing but top tier professionalism, with plenty of advertisements everywhere to let you know this is WWE. And I mean advertisements. SmackDown and Raw are no strangers to product placements and advertisers. How many commercials does a regular episode of either have? Too many, for starters, and you really don't escape it here either. The countdown to the show had ads playing on the arena's central screens, but thankfully plenty of them were at least WWE related. No Doritos or anything like that. But yeah, plenty of Prime, obnoxious as that is. Next thing to notice was the wrestler's entrance, which is even more impressive in person than it is on television. And it's much, much larger than the house show entrance. The LED lights line the entryway as well as the barricades, giving it that polish that really makes it pop on live TV. Minimalist, this is not. It's impressive through and through. Even the announcers get their own entrance music before the show officially starts. But that's all you really see and definitely all you hear of the announcers. More on that in a second. There were some dark matches before the official start of the show, keeping the crowd entertained as the arena filled up. The thud of the ring is like music to my ears. Regardless if it's a house show, SmackDown, or PLE, they put plenty of microphones underneath the ring. So every time someone slams down, you hear the beautiful thud of bodies smacking off the mat. Because it was a go-home show, the episode was actually pretty stagnant and boring. The only major highlight was seeing AJ Styles make his triumphant return to SmackDown, only to see it cut short immediately when he injured himself against Carmelo Hayes. LA Knight got a huge pop during the segment, but this is when you realize watching wrestling live is very, very different than watching it on TV, because of the lack of commentary. You don't need it necessarily, even though it's nice having Michael Cole there navigating the nuance of the situation. But not having someone narrate doesn't ruin the event at all. all. You enjoy it in a completely different way. Because the wrestlers do a great job of telling the story with body language when they're not on the microphone. It truly is an art form. Unfortunately, from here, the rest of the show was pretty bland, like most go-home shows are. SmackDown and Raw are what you watch for major storyline implications, and the PLE is what you watch for storyline conclusions or major milestones. But the episode of anything right before the PLE generally stays pretty stale, because the build-up to the PLE's already been done. Now, after the tag team match that concluded the episode, the crowd was treated to even more dark matches, which were far more entertaining than the actual show itself. First, Sheamus made his appearance and cut a promo after his win, telling everyone that he loved living in Nashville and exactly where we could find him if we wanted to meet him for a drink afterward. My inner Stone Cold kicked in, but I quickly disregarded it. I had to get the fuck out of there right after the show because I had to drive to Atlanta for Bad Blood. After Sheamus retreated to the back, Liv Morgan had a championship match. Yes, they really do bring out the Raw superstars even for SmackDown dark matches. The shows are far more intertwined than you think. She put on a hell of a performance before the man himself, Cody Rhodes, came out. The second time I saw him in a week, and I'd ultimately see him for a third time the following night at Bad Blood. He put on basically a squash match against Austin Theory, and seemed to mostly be there for the entrance and to cut a promo thanking the fans. He eventually would invite a random kid into the ring to present his American Nightmare weight belt to, and lifted him up on his shoulders. It makes you realize how much of a workhorse they made Cody after he won that title. He is everywhere. He's at every house show, he's on every SmackDown, even if it's for a dark match. The man is a machine. The takeaway from SmackDown is just how incredibly seamless they make everything. What you see at home isn't exactly what you see in the arena. For example, when they cut away from commercials, they're still wrestling, they're still going at it. When they cut away to commercials after a wrestler's entrance, and then they return and the music is still playing, how do they do that with live TV? Does it play through the whole commercial? The answer? No, it is not like that in the arena. They also cut away to advertisements on the Jumbotron, but they're wrestling-related ads, and while that's happening, the ring people are either changing out the mat, and the wrestler who made their entrance basically just kind of paces around in darkness while they wait for the commercial break to end. Then they hit their spot, and their music kicks right back in where they left off when they return from break. It sounds really goofy, but it's super seamless in person. In fact, how seamless WWE does all of this is unbelievably impressive. I went to an AEW show as well early in the year, and it's honestly night and day between how each show does their thing. That's how good WWE is at this point, which makes sense. They've been doing it for over 30 years. Beyond the perfect execution of the production, it is unfortunate that the storyline stayed stagnant despite being on the program where they're supposed to be pushed forward. And other than LA Knight and AJ Styles, there weren't any major star appearances, at least not until the dark matches, which turned it much closer to that of a house show, and they were way more entertaining than the actual show itself. Right after it was over, I started my drive from Nashville to Atlanta. Now, security at the PLE was absolutely ridiculous, and if you ever go to the State Farm Arena, do not listen to the employees trying to tell you to go to the speedy security check-in. It's bullshit. It's just a way for them to get you to download a dumbass app so they can track your data, and worst of all, I watched the regular line of people head into the stadium at 5 times the pace of this speedy check-in line. Now, I'm a huge CM Punk fan, as if you couldn't tell. Or maybe this'll give it away. Not sure. I knew his feud with Drew McIntyre was coming to an end in the opening match. So when I heard Drew's music hit while I was still standing in line, I was, understandably, pretty upset. I had been duped by these clowns. Now I'm the clown.
Go fuck yourself.
I ran to my seat just as Punk's music hit. But the arena was pretty confusing, so we struggled finding our exact seats. We just stood there in the aisle for a minute, still somehow seeing Punk's entrance. And holy shit, the production value for a PLE makes it feel quite literally like the ultimate WWE experience outside of a WrestleMania. The wrestler entrance screens are stripped down compared to a Raw or SmackDown taping, but still more impressive than a house show because they had to make way for filling the entire arena with fans rather than just 3/4 full. And then you see the massive steel cage that surrounds the ring. It truly is something to behold in person. I'm still exuberant over the fact I get to bear witness to the best match of 2024. Drew and Punk, as you know, put on one hell of a show, and it's really something watching it live without commentary. You just get to be immersed in it, an experience only being there can provide. Unlike a SmackDown presentation, there are no commercial breaks, thank God, and any time spent in between matches, there are simply WWE advertisements being shown on the screen to keep you occupied while you wait. Or or it's the perfect time for a concession break. I can't speak highly enough of the production value of this show. It really was amazing. From Dom and Liv driving a car into the arena, to the all-out frenzy created when the full bands played Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns theme songs. It's an amazing experience. Like the SmackDown presentation, it's a totally different world watching wrestling without commentary. But going to so many shows made me realize you don't actually need it to appreciate the show or get the whole story. Like I said, you understand what's going on based on the nuances of body language from the wrestlers. And the crowd reaction helps put things in perspective. And this crowd was loud. I went back and watched the SmackDown I was at and the PLE, and the audio really does not capture just how noisy these crowds are. It reminded me of the complaints of the crowd being dull for the Royal Rumble that year, but I was there and that crowd was loud, man. If there's one thing I wish WWE did better, it's capture just how ruckus these audiences are at their shows. Other little things happen that you get to pick up on, unlike watching it on TV. For example, when Dirty Dom was hanging high in the cage during the Liv and Rhea match, it was amusing watching him try and figure out how to escape, something you don't get to see on television. Or piecing together what was happening when Cody was jumped at the end of his fight. Watching Roman and Jimmy argue over whether to help him, something you watch happen with subtlety, rather than the over-the-top commentary by Michael Cole, as glorious as that is. It's interesting to note, but also expected, that wrestlers are in character at all times, always doing something interesting because whether they're on camera or not, they're telling a story. This PLE was my favorite of the year, and not just because I was there. It lived up to what a PLE is supposed to do, which is to be the culmination of major storylines and story milestones. The CM Punk feud with McIntyre finally came to its conclusion after 10 glorious months, and Roman Reigns returned for in-ring action for the first time since WrestleMania, pushing his story forward with the bloodline when the final boss himself, The Rock, came out to end the show. And did I say this crowd was loud? This crowd went fucking bananas when his music hit. It was absolutely nuts. The polar opposite of how booming the audience got when booing Triple H for showcasing that stupid-ass over-the-top championship belt for the Crown Jewel show the following month. Yep, the audience in attendance was just annoyed as you at home. Now, after going to 3 events in 1 week, which kind of show is best to see live? It really does depend on what you're going for. The shows I went to ramped up in production value and intensity since it went house show, SmackDown, then PLE. A house show offers a stripped-down setup, but includes surprise appearances and great interactions with the crowd. It's the best way to possibly get in touch with your favorite superstars, if they're there. Unfortunately, those who are advertised may or may not appear. It's a real crapshoot. Storylines also stay stagnant, but that's fine because you get to see a continuation of feuds you don't get to see anywhere else. Now, SmackDown was the most fluid out of all 3, which makes sense since they do this every week, but I'd rank attending SmackDown at the bottom of my list, mostly because of expectations. You expect a Raw or SmackDown to push storylines ahead, but it's really a crapshoot too. You don't necessarily know what kind of show you're getting yourself into because amazing things happen on those shows, just not the one I went to. That means it's between a house show and a PLE, so which was better? Production value aside, I can't lie that it's glorious seeing the big names putting on amazing matches and progressing storylines, which is what wrestling is all about. Great characters, great stories, great wrestling, and that's what a PLE provides. In other words, like I said, the ultimate WWE experience. But I'm going to say a house show is best. Even though I don't get to see all my favorites like Roman Reigns and CM Punk at those, a house show is, in my opinion, the best fan experience you can possibly have, especially for the price. That's what was left unsaid so far in this video. The cost. These tickets are not cheap. Just like everything nowadays, the price for fun has skyrocketed too, and WWE plays right into that. For the value you get, a house show is by far the best bang for your buck. It's the cheapest of all shows to get to, meaning you can get closer to the ring. I've been to numerous house shows at this point, and it's relatively, I say relatively, affordable to get ringside seats, which makes it an ungodly cool experience. And if you're a super fan, it's the best way to interact with the wrestlers. And they want to interact with you too. They stay behind, hang out as long as possible, signing autographs and taking pictures with the crowd. The matches are also great fun. No, it's not the story-pushing matches being held like a PLE, but it's great all the same. And even though stories aren't moving forward, the kayfabe means you're still in story, quality no matter what they're doing. So our ranking goes House Show number 1, PLE number 2, SmackDown number 3. Or Raw, as I've been to both, might as well throw that in there. It's unfortunate WWE is dwindling down house shows because they really are best for the fans. But I guess it's not best for WWE's parent company, TKO. In the end, if you ever get a chance to go to any WWE event, it's well worth it. It doesn't matter what seat you get, how close you are, or what kind of show you're at. WWE puts on something worth your while right now, regardless if it's a live TV taping, a premium live event, or a house show. But yeah, go to a house show if you can. GG's.